Anderson.
Here.
Absent Trustee Saylor, also present Chief Evans and Attorney Weiler.
Thank you, Robin. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes from the regular meeting for October 20th, 2020?
So moved. Second.
Any questions, comments, concerns? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Minutes passed. Remarks from the floor.
I got some. You want to take one last time talk?
You can take it up one. That's fine.
Okay. Brian Bird from Local 5024 here. Fair statement. The members of Local 5024 would like to go on record as publicly voicing our support for placing a tax referendum on the upcoming spring ballot. We are committed to supporting this effort as we did it for the November 3rd referendum. I've been in contact with the AFFI Executive Board in developing a strategy to obtain a successful referendum. It is our belief that we can overcome the roadblocks encountered previously by leveraging the resources from the AFFI, enthusiastic support from the Save the Winfield Fire Department, and the commitment of our membership. The Save the Winfield Fire Department Committee gained the support of many residents, both old and new friends of the fire district. The effort put forth led more momentum than I've ever seen before. We believe that we should build on that momentum and keep the conversation going. We owe it to ourselves, but above that, to the residents of the district to keep pushing forward. We look forward to working with the determined board and the district to bring positive change to this department now and for many years to come. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well said. Any other comments from the floor? Thank you all.
Hi, can I?
Absolutely. Please.
Hi, my name is Luke Allen. I'm the chair of the Save the Winfield Fire Department Referendum Committee. I'd like to thank the board for giving us the opportunity to support the referendum. We made a lot of progress over referendums that have been held in the past. We had a very high impact in the central part of Winfield. The election numbers showed that we were able to really increase the conversation that happened in the old part of Winfield. And we will be continuing as an organization to support the fire department's needs until such time as our support is no longer needed. So thank you.
Thank you, Luke. Thank you and your team as well.
Yeah, really. Thanks for a great job.
Of course, treasurer's report.
Treasurer's report was in your packet. It is as presented. Any questions?
A motion to accept the treasurer's report.
So moved.
Have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Chief Evans.
Thank you. So, to start, I usually report on training, but as I mentioned previously at the previous board meeting, multi-company and multi-agency training pretty much throughout the Alliance and throughout the MABUS division as well is done at least through the end of the year because of COVID concerns and out of an abundance of caution. So I have nothing to report there. Recent incidents note, just a few. In addition to our regular numbers of calls, which the run report is in everyone's packet, some interesting calls of note were a rollover accident on October 23rd, where we were assisted by Carroll Stream, West Chicago, and Warrenville. On October 28th, we had a kitchen fire on the 600 block Lancaster Drive. We were assisted by Wheaton on that call. And on November 11th, I went to Bensonville for a fire/hazmat call. As in our MABUS division, we have the 3 specialty teams that work as a MABUS group. I am the chief liaison on the water rescue team. We have water rescue, hazmat, and technical rescue. As one of those specialty team chiefs, whenever any specialty team call comes in one of those disciplines, we all respond to each other's call because we have a more nuanced understanding of a lot of the terminology and the way that the command system operates in a specialty team incident, which is why I went to Bensonville for this call, which was very difficult. Compliments to Bensonville and the East agencies. They did a magnificent job with an incredibly difficult scene. And the reason I get into more detail about it is because of this. Several of the agencies lost hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of gear and equipment. So there are people. Sorry, I just want to make sure I wasn't going to be good. There were several agencies and at least a half dozen or 8 companies, their gear was completely wiped out. It was taken out of service on the scene. So they're going to be in their backup gear while they order new gear, and with the COVID delays that are happening in production of gear, they're going to be months in their backup gear while their primary set of turnout gear was out of service because it was ruined from the hazardous material event inside the building in conjunction with the fire event. Which brings me to our point. We had budgeted for replacement gear because not all of our people, in fact a minority of our people have a second set of gear. And in our case, a lot of the second sets of gear are out of date. They're beyond their life expectancy. So I had already budgeted and worked with our coordinator, Jeff Fester, who's done a wonderful job. Had worked on re-establishing a replacement schedule and to get those people all geared up in the second set. Well, I'm going to be expediting that because that incident was a perfect illustration that now we can't have half of our guys that were on a bad call that don't have turnout gear for the next 3 months until someone gets it. So we're going to be expediting that process. We had budgeted money. I'm going to be pressing the budget on that issue for that reason, just so everyone knows.
Excuse me, Steve.
Yes.
Are we just getting one set, or should we go into the budget and get 2 sets of gear so that everyone has the proper safety, especially during these trying times?
Yes. Thank you, Trustee Counsel, that's an excellent point. We're going to start by, which was what we had budgeted for, start by getting everyone into a second set of gear. And then after we get that, then the next thing is to start replacing the gear that is out of date. So to get everyone into 2 sets of gear that's compliant, or
Why not just replace it all at once?
Let's start getting these people that work for us and protect us protected.
I agree.
I would like to see us spend the money to protect them and have 2 sets of gear now. Throw the old stuff out. Let's get them protected now with everything that they need that's current, and let's move forward the right way.
Consider it done.
I agree.
Our
guys are not protected the way they should be.
That's wrong.
Yeah, Jeff and I have been, like I said, have been in communication, and he knows this is coming, so he's been with the vendor. We're ready to roll. I will get going on it.
Let's get it done.
We waited too long. We waited too long. We need to.
No more pence and pennies.
Service anniversaries, Lieutenant Dave Fermento, 25 years total time. He started with us as a part-time paid-on-call member before he was hired by the district full-time. So Lieutenant Fermento, 25 years total time with the district as of November 1st. Firefighter paramedic Matt Smith, 11 years with the district on November 9th. Other information report, the FEMA grant for the air packs, the evaluation continues. I think actually Firefighter Burt, floating around here somewhere, was leading up that effort, and I think we're getting close to arriving at the particular air packs and the particular parameters that we're going to be going with to make that grant happen, and we'll be acting on that in the not so distant future. Live streaming of the video meetings, obviously, I have nothing much to report on that. I didn't get it done. My apologies to the board. We had other things going, and I've made no progress on that front. Firefighter paramedic Aaron Evig, one of our part-time members, took a leave of absence to leave for a full-time position at Lyle Woodridge. One of our other part-time members, firefighter paramedic Kevin Stott, put in a leave of absence because his full-time department has restricted outside employment during the COVID thing. So that leaves us with 4
3 or 4, yeah.
part-time members at the moment. Which again, going back to our staffing dilemmas and our chronic open shifts, is part of the packet that I, in my report within the packet for a talking point on the agenda. And our work continues. Andrew Martin over there is leading up the effort with our workers' comp carrier, IRMA, on our focus group. He's been doing a lot of hard work, getting a lot of stuff, paperwork, policies, a lot of work, going to meetings, remote meetings these days, with IRMA. So he's been working really hard on that, and we continue to move forward in the focus group program to keep us being carried by IRMA, which is a very good cost benefit for the district relative to other carriers. And that is all I have in my report.
Thanks, Steve. Bernie?
Nothing to report other than that we should be looking at towards, maybe putting some resources into broadcasting meetings, so that when it becomes infeasible to have meetings, you could have them electronically. In which case, if that is the case, the amendments to the Open Meetings Act says that you must accommodate people who want to attend the meeting through electronic means. So, devoting some resources to getting that done, even if you have to, engage a third party to do that. I don't know that we can expect interiorly to really have that done, and I don't know that it would be that big of an investment. What's that?
Could that be on the agenda for next month?
That could be on the agenda for next month, and just kind of explore what it would take to deal with it and approve it and, put it together. A lot of places have video rooms and things like that, so they were already equipped for that, but, from our circumstances, it's just another expense that we're gonna have to meet. So, and I don't know that it's that big of an expense, but it does take some time and talent to put that together.
Okay, thank you, Bernie. Do I have a motion to accept the consent agenda?
So moved.
Any questions? I've noticed on here, Steve, that we've already surpassed last year's call volume, and we still have a month and a half to go.
We are ahead of last year to date, but we have not surpassed.
Oh, we have not
last year's.
surpassed it
Yes.
yet? Okay.
Excuse me, Mr. President, but we need a second on the consent agenda.
Oh, one second.
Second. Okay, he said it.
Okay, any questions? All in favor? Any opposed? New business, review and accept the municipal compliance report from the pension fund. Does anybody have any questions on the compliance report? Do I have a motion to accept the report from the pension fund?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Support.
All in favor? Any opposed? Okay. Review and accept the tax levy request letter from the pension fund.
Mr. President, just a couple of quick comments. In addition to the letter, for the benefit of those in attendance, there were a few things that made this year somewhat unique. In that previous, we had not had a retiree, so our pension was being fully funded and without a draw on it from a retired member. Last year, or earlier this year, we had our first retiree, and there were some impact on the fund, as is indicated in the letter. In addition to that, with the passing earlier in the year of the legislation about moving Article 3 and Article 4 pensions downstate, that also involved an enhancement to Tier 2 employees, more recent people that are going into the pension fund. Several years ago, there was an adjustment to the pensions to scale back the benefits to newer members. That, as it turns out, did not pass safe harbor, which the attorney could speak to more eloquently than I could. But they had to make an adjustment to those, which was part of the legislation. That also had an impact on the pension fund. So consequently, and I want to give compliments to Robin, we worked in preparation of this budget this year to do our best without knowing what the actual calculations were gonna be, because at the time, when we were preparing the budget, no one knew what the enhancements to Tier 2 were gonna be, so we worked really hard to try and determine an approximate number, knowing that there would be a considerable impact to the pension fund, which is how we arrived at the amount of money that we wanted to fund into the fund this year, which is also part of this letter, but just a little context to the hows and the whys behind it.
So the 75% increase is how it ended up.
Right.
$198,000 over and above the contribution from last year.
Which is $400,000.
462,000.
I thought,
We budgeted 400.
We budgeted 400 in anticipation that that number was gonna hit. We were,
Yeah.
right.
But even with that aggressive, I mean, we took that aggressive posture, anticipating it, and still fell short, so.
Right.
So that's what happens.
All right, do I have a motion to accept the letter from the pension fund?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Review and discuss the election results.
President, so in everyone's packet was some information taken from the county's election website with precinct totals and all of the election information that you see in your packet. So if anyone has any questions or would like any additional information, please let me know and I'll be happy to do that. Otherwise, those results are in your packets.
We can't demand a recount, right?
Probably can.
We're probably out of the percentages?
Yeah, I think we're just a little.
Just a little out of the.
Just a little bit.
Just a bit? Okay.
Thank you, Steve, for all the due diligence
Really,
there.
thank you, though.
I think now is the time we can bring up and discuss moving forward and to discuss the spring 2021 election. Steve had given us a revised election date. We thought that there was the primary in the spring and then a general in the fall. Well, it turns out we don't have a fall election in 2021. So the question is, how do we move forward with another referendum? How do we propose it? How do we place it on the ballot? The original thought was what Steve had come up with here was placing a question on the ballot, having the folks make a decision, and then we proceed from that, assuming that they would all say, yes, we'll go for a referendum, we'd be able to do it in the fall. Well, that's not going to happen. So the question is, do we proceed with this, the question, and then go for the referendum, assuming that the residents say yes, but that would be for another year? Or do we go for the referendum just like we did in the spring? And I think that is a question for the board to their opinions.
I would like to ask the chair of the committee
Yeah.
what his thoughts are on that.
Right, I think that's great.
Remember, I'm a volunteer with no political experience. I am not a strategist. I'm a teacher.
But
Uh,
you
I
have no agenda.
I have no agenda. I have nothing to gain from this. I have tax money, a tax bill to lose. But I also have attended a lot of functions here. I've learned a lot about the fire service. And you have a structural funding problem. Your day-to-day operations are challenged because of the funding level that you have. I think that our group and the supporters who have come out to participate in our group have expressed that they are willing to continue the campaign. They are willing to, they feel that we should not let off the gas, so to speak, that we should keep building on the momentum that we've built, and in communicating the needs of the fire district to the residents and the consequences of continuing to say no. So I personally feel that as a taxpayer, as a resident of the district, that you should continue it again for the spring.
Does that give you enough time to?
No,
regroup?
but you don't have a choice. We have winter coming up,
Right.
but we'll make do. And our plan is to knock on every door in the district.
Well, you have another group now going back with you.
Yes.
So that should make it a lot
We-
easier with their resources behind you guys.
Can I ask a question, in the small amount of time you did have, did you concentrate just in the Winfield area? I mean, did you spend much time like in the Klein Creek area, or in the
We
south?
spent more time in in central Winfield.
Okay.
For two reasons. One, they had not voted to pass a referendum as a group. Like if you looked at the records, I don't know that the main old central Winfield had voted to approve a referendum, at least in a very long time. But also, it was an opportunity to collaborate with the school referendum. And we built a lot of momentum together in communicating both organizations' needs. And so that was the reason we ended up spending so much time in central Winfield. Our efforts moving forward will be in the non-central parts of, everything east of County Farm Road, up in the north, northeast, and south of Roosevelt are obviously the areas we have to hit.
It reflects it in the both colors.
It does.
Thanks for letting me speak. I'm Matt Rich. I'm here, yes, I am superintendent of the school district, but here tonight because this is a passion project for me. We only got one of the two referenda over the line, and we need to get the second one over the line. While there's many of my families that are not wanting to come out and want to honor the Tier 3 mitigation standards that are coming forward, there's been many that have communicated to me that they want to support this board and the firefighters that we have in this community, and that they want to continue the energy moving forward to support our community. We get the kids while they're in school, but you guys have shown time and time again you take care of our families after they're out the door. And we want to continue to provide that energy and effort.
I know how many construction projects are approved in the region, primarily all south of the tracks. And, after studying as much as I have about the fire district, your call volumes are going to go up. They have nowhere to go but up. And every project that's been approved, every single project that's been approved, are the kinds of projects that will generate a lot of calls. They're not healthy 20-year-olds moving into those places. They're going to generate calls. And that's not something you can afford to do at the base level of funding. I strongly believe you need to keep the momentum and the conversation happening. So letting off the gas now, I think, would be a problem. And also, I think you need to continue the same messaging. That you stay the course, that your foundational needs have not changed and continue to become worse. You have gear that's worn out. You have guys getting hurt. You have guys that can't go home for 4 days in a row to see their family. And those things need to be addressed. So that's why we have organized and are willing to help you out. So for what it's worth, that's my personal opinion.
We're certainly in a fight of our life to save the lives of the people in Winfield, in our district. So I would say that we fight harder.
Randy, what do you think?
Yes, no, I think we continue.
There's absolutely no question that the condition we're in, people now know it, or at least have been told it, and the fight will expand into those other areas. I think it's a no-brainer. Our teams need it to be done. Needs to be done. Do it again. Put it out there.
You can count on me to stand in any driveway and talk.
Yep.
one of the things we started in late October was the Winfield collaborative conversations piece, the strategic conversations. And I would ask, George has been a wonderful member, and I'd love to put out there into our agenda for the January meeting, how do we enlist communities to share the message and allow forums for the fire protection district to come and talk to their community and put it formally on the agenda, because I think that we need other people to open up other forums to broaden out this message. And George, if you're willing for that to be a part of the agenda, I think it'd be a very important piece.
Yeah, it help.
Great, perfect. Well, then I think it's the board's action that we're going to move ahead with the referendum in the spring, duplicate what we just did. Steve, do you have any issues with that?
None other than in the memorandum that is included in your packet, note that there are options, however, none of them are sustainable, and that's, I think, nothing is a long-term solution except what we have and are talking about doing again.
Right.
The necessity for that additional company, the fact that call volume, we're already amongst the busiest agencies in our area. It is not going to get better with a 5-story apartment building, an additional apartment building, a large religious facility, and a large subdivision of this 55 plus. Only the stuff that are projects currently underway. That says nothing about whatever else might happen. So the necessity for that additional company is clearly evident. Having a company on the south side, number one, on the south side of the tracks, and in closer proximity to many areas of the district that right now exceed that response timeline. Again, going back to all of the different talking points that I had within the memorandum for different options, none of them would cure what is wrong with us at the moment. This is, in my opinion, my sincere professional opinion, this is the long-term solution.
Good. Good.
Well, then I say, come next meeting, let's have something on the agenda to officially put it in.
Hey, Steve, could you explain a little bit the concept of, what did you call that, where you're moving property from one district to the other?
So one of the options, again, going back to the memo, thank you, Trustee Sasson, is there is a statute, 70 ICLS 705/16D, that affords to fire districts to transfer property between the fire districts. So we could, up to 60 acres, Attorney Weiler could speak better to it than I could, but the statute says that you can move property between districts as long as both of them adopt an ordinance. The transfer would happen. Where this idea generates from, and again, why it's not the solution I would recommend, but it is an option, is it's the two sides of a coin. We need to grow to meet our service demands, which is what we're talking about, where the other side of that coin is we need to shrink our demands to fit what we have, which would involve a tremendous undertaking, which would have an impact on us financially. So it would have to be a scaled project. So in order to do that, those areas that are the farthest away from our staff station, we would enter into conversations with our neighboring fire districts, in this case Carroll Stream and West Chicago, to transfer property, if they agreed, transfer property from us to them. The impact on our citizens would be tax rates would increase because our equalized assessed valuation would drop, but we would be able to transfer those people to another fire district where they might have a station closer. That might help our call volume not rise as fast. Another one of the downsides for those people is they would adopt that new fire district's tax rate as well. So in the case of a community out on the northeast side of our district, that's paying, $360 to us currently at our tax rate for a $300,000 home, would go up to $720 were they to move to Carroll Stream. So there would be impacts a lot, but it would be an effort to put them somewhere where they could get service faster and scale down the amount of calls that we have to try and shrink our district. It's not a particularly good idea, but again, going back to my analogy with the coin, there's two sides to the coin, and if we can't grow to meet our needs or our demands, we would have to shrink our demands. But that I'm suspect whether it would actually work, but it would be something to try. It would be an option to explore, but I don't think that's a really long-term sustainable option. But of the two, that
Basically,
is one.
only, you're talking about areas like the Klein Creek area or areas way south, like Mack Road and that sort of thing.
Yeah. So so the areas up near, Gary and Geneva, Mission Court, Klein Creek, Timber Creek, and then to the south, that stuff off of Mack and White Oak and those areas down there, moving them to other districts to.
Okay. That's just, I wasn't aware of that statute, so that was kind of an interesting.
So yeah, included in the packet was that statute and an article. This is actually happening to a neighbor to the west of us. West Chicago, effective January 1st, I believe, is assuming a subdivision from another fire protection district, Fox River Grove, under that same series of conditions. So that's happening effective January 1. So it is something that is done and has been done. But
And it looked like the residents in that article got together a petition. Does that petition hold any water?
No,
I know they're voters, but
there were politicians involved. There was petitions. People attended meetings. There were all of that. But at the end of the day, the statute dictates the fact that if the two bodies agree on the transfer happens.
that's kind of how I read it. But I wanted to just get clarification.
So that would how it actually.
So
You have, the statute provides for certain notices to go out to all of the residents. Okay, so it's a pretty big undertaking.
Well, and it has
Okay.
certified notices too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
So you have to figure out who they are and notify everybody. And the idea of that is to give people the opportunity to object to it. The problem is that once the objections do not bind either party, either of the two districts who are collaborating to achieve that transfer. So even though there may be some upheaval, both boards can just say, no, we're going to do
Party A
it.
and Party B agree,
Yeah.
then whatever the
Exactly.
residents decide, it doesn't matter. Okay.
Yeah. And so in discussing this with Steve, we've recognized some of the shortcomings of that plan, okay? And that is what we really pay for here is 80% preparedness, 20% execution. So even if you take off service demands, it doesn't relieve you of the necessity of having this minimum staffing that we would have to, if we reduced ourselves to a quarter of our size, it would still cost just as much to be prepared for one emergency as it would be, for 100. And so that's really what we're paying for is preparedness. The other limitation of that proposal is that 60 acres has to be all contiguous, and that you couldn't just take maybe just one resident that you would like to remove from your district, and you couldn't do that. So, there's problems with that, and typically the reason that statute was interjected is that there are times in which you know, fire protection districts in the rural areas are huge, okay? And you really can't predict where development is going to be. And so sometimes the development happens in such a way that you have these islands of activity that are far away from their own district's facilities, but closer to another. And that this allowed for the idea that when there was development of about a 60-acre parcel, that you could negotiate where that protection is going to happen. That's really not our situation because our contiguous areas are all pretty much developed. But it is a solution that could interest other districts. And you know what happens with that when you start to consume yourself, you're cutting off revenue.
Right.
Okay, that you actually need to do the minimal staffing to have it somewhere else. So it's a hell of a dilemma.
Yeah. Mhm.
But the fact that we're discussing that really kind of shows where we are, because we really don't have very many places to turn, and this is one of the areas that does address one of the very serious sides of the coin that the chief is addressing. You know,
Well,
he's got a big job
And
to
I think
figure out how he's
this is a
going to.
conversation that should happen.
Mhm.
This is a conversation that should happen with Carroll Stream and West Chicago. And, you know, if there is interest in that from their point, then,
Well,
you know.
I don't know if we're at that point yet.
But you know,
I don't know.
Here's the irony.
We're not far away, Phil.
Here's
No,
the,
we're not.
It's time to start the conversation sooner than later.
Yeah.
How about this for a bargain? We give you 60 acres, and we lose $300 per residence. You gain $900 per residence. Who wouldn't take that bargain?
Right. Mhm.
So, and I think you misquoted that difference. It's not $700. I think with their rate, which is close to 9, would be $900.
I did this, if their
Would be-
current rate is 76, it would be $760, that's $720. They're 920.
The other side, West
Yeah,
Chicago,
would be.
900. So who wouldn't strike that bargain?
Right.
Right, I think it is a conversation that should be had. We owe it to, it's our responsibility to try to do everything that's possible. No matter how far outside we would want it to be, we have to examine every possibility, whether we like it or not.
Right.
Exactly.
So I think that, you know, Steve, whenever you get a chance, which I know that's
In your
difficult,
spare time.
in your spare time.
Maybe on a Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, and just as a see if that's something they'd be interested in, then we could always pursue it officially later. But if Carroll Stream and West Chicago flat out say no, we want nothing to do with that, then that's
I doubt that will be the case.
I doubt that'd be the case too. But it's certainly, and it's obviously not something you put right on the top priority. But if you're sitting down with one of their chiefs.
I think it's a chatting point.
It's a chatting point
It's
at this
something
point,
it's
yes.
something to chat about.
Exactly. Thank you for all your efforts there, Steve.
Yeah, really
Thank
did a
you,
great
Steve.
job, Steve.
Thank you. All right, next, we received a donation on November 4th from Mr. Ryan Marshall, and I would like to commend this man.
I'd love to find a way to advertise his comment.
Yes. I think this is, Steve, would you like to?
Actually, I would like to defer it to Attorney Weiler, because we happened to be having a meeting when this gentleman showed up, so
Yeah.
he's more eloquent than I, so I think.
So we were there to look at to pick up the debris of the election and figure out what we were going to do and have the discussions that we're having now. And unannounced, a resident came in with a check representing the amount of money that that his taxes would have increased had the referendum passed.
Right.
So he came in and said, I feel that I owe this to this district. that the referendum was perfectly reasonable, it was necessary, and it brought to the attention how the people who have helped my family are trying to get along with as little resources as we are affording them. So I'm up here, I came here today to do my part to, I can't change the result of the election, but I can behave in a way that is civically responsible. And he was very eloquent in the way that he put it, and frankly, he put his money where his mouth is. So it was really interesting to.
It was wonderful.
Was
It
really
was a wonderful
interesting.
thing.
But read his memo comments.
You go ahead. Go for it, Steve.
Donation due to cheap voters.
That's a memo on the check.
Memo on the check. Yeah. I wish there was a way we could publish that, but obviously, probably
did.
not.
So,
But
with
yeah.
that said, Mr. President, I believe board action we need whether to accept or.
Do I have a motion to accept Mr. Marshall's eloquent donation?
So moved. I think that was one of the bravest things any resident's done.
Amen. Do I have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, Mr. Marshall.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Marshall.
Discuss and take action on full-time staffing needs. Chief?
So, as we've been through quite a bit, our full-time members, and actually our part-time members as well, I don't need to undervalue their efforts, because they have full-time jobs and they come here and work a part-time job on top of it. But specific to this is the full-time members working 96s, 120s, being forced back, double forced backs, stuff that's relatively unheard of. And in fact, Robin, correct me if I'm wrong, year to date when this was printed on the October 31st, 6,383 hours of overtime.
Mm-hmm.
Our people are simply taking a beating, and it needs to stop. And the complication is, what do we do about it? Again, going back to the memo I included in the packet, is it's not an easy answer. Because a full-time first-year employee would cost approximately $90,000 a year. Now, to have a part-time member on duty every day of the year for 24 hours is about $176,000. The complication is we can't find enough of them to work, so there's a lot of open shifts, which is creating overtime, which is overstressing the members, which is causing a variety of things, including job-related injuries. We have 2 people off on long-term injury as we're sitting here, which builds up more overtime that we can't fill with part-timers because we can't find part-timers to fill them. Over the last couple of months in my monthly report, you'll notice that we've lost several of the part-time members to full-time positions that have left us. A couple of our members at full-time departments have been restricted from working outside of their full-time department, so we've lost a lot of people and we just can't replace them. So it's creating these chronic openings that are creating chronic amounts of oppressive overtime. So what's the fix? And again, going back to the memorandum, there were several different options we could discuss. Because that needs to end. That needs to end for them, and we owe it to them to make it end. So we could hire more full-time staff. Again, if we hired full-time staff, if we were fully outfitted at our current staffing model, that would, and because people get step raises, new members as they move along in their career get step raises. We have officers, other stuff like that. So I mean, everyone at a median cost in terms of complete compensation package. So salary, benefits, insurance, pension, all of those contributions for the staff members and the administrative staff, because currently it's just the two of us, would use up all of the tax money. So, you know, at the median pay amount, would use up all of our property tax funds. So that's a tough pill to swallow by going that route. We could bring in a contract service. Now, a contract service for currently what would be 2 spots is going to be difficult to find people willing to work that contract, because if there's only the 2 of you on the contract and your partner doesn't come into work, you get forced back. So there's complications with that. It's more expensive than part-time, it's less expensive than full-time, but those people also are out there trying to get full-time commissioned positions a lot of times. We could degrade the 5th position on shift and make it paramedic only, which would hopefully create a bigger pool of available candidates to come in and work. I can't sit here and guarantee you that's going to be the case. It might be. The complication with that is it immediately degrades our service level, because, as often happens here, our ambulance goes out on a medic call. They're not available from the hospital or the scene yet. We get a second medic call. Engine crew jumps off, takes the second ambulance to the second call. Before they're available, what was the engine crew, before they're back from their second ambulance call, the first ambulance comes back. And we get a fire call. It's not an uncommon event. With a medic-only person, you can't staff the fire engine now. So it degrades our ability in that jump capacity that we've been doing. So that's a complication with that. And the other is to just simply, when we have a vacancy, drop to a minimum manning from the 5, the minimum of 2 paramedics on the ambulance, minimum of 3 firefighters on the engine, who are cross-trained as medics, at least 2 of them. We can degrade that, so if we have an opening on a shift and we can't fill it with a part-time member, we just run short. Then, the complication with that is you can maybe get 2 medic units, depending upon who's working and if everybody's a paramedic, all 4. Or you get an engine call and then a second call comes in, or a second medic call comes in, and you don't have enough people to staff it. So, again, an enormous degrade to our service level. So what is the answer? And that was the talking points that were in the memo and for the group. There's not an easy solution. Do we spend over money to have full-time and stabilize that oppressive amount of overtime, or do we pick one of those options which is going to ultimately degrade service level?
In my opinion, you've got to bring in the proper people, staff it properly, give our teams the rest they need, give them back to time with their families, bring that overtime down, and maybe a little bit more than we're paying now with all that overtime, but these guys are killing themselves.
Well, and something's gonna happen. Someone's gonna get serious.
Well,
Someone's gonna get seriously hurt if they
But you
continue
also
down
have to
this
keep
road.
in mind, the voters sent a clear message that they're okay with degrading the service.
Well, I don't know if they sent a clear message with
I
degrading
think
the
they
service.
did, because I think we've made it pretty clear that in order to maintain the level of service, we needed a referendum passed, and they chose not to pass it. So therefore, they know that they can't get the same level of service.
I kinda think that's a jump. I mean,
I don't know what it
I
is.
follow your train, but I think that train's going off the track. I still think our voters expect the same level of service, because,
With no money.
but
That's
that-
not a valid expectation.
but that is what it is, unfortunately, Phil. And I think our staff deserves to work with professionals, in opposed to someone that might let them down. I think with the efforts that these guys have put in 86, 94 hours a week, not seeing their family, working hurt, I don't think that it's time to degrade our guys. I think it's time to upgrade our guys. I think it's time to stand prouder and stand
I'm
tall.
not suggesting
and be more,
degrading guys. I'm
Yeah.
suggesting that if you can't
we
get
can't
out.
degrade our service.
I think you're taking a little bit out of context.
Yeah.
I might be, and that's okay. That's why we have
But
conversations.
the degrading service has two meanings. One meaning is that the service recipient has degraded in terms of the level of service that they are going to get and the level of expertise. The other meaning of degrading in service is the degrading of the capabilities of the service provider to safely deliver that service. So when you are degrading we're already below the IDOL standards of safety for what we're doing. So if you degrade that service, you are further degrading the capabilities that we have to professionally address a dangerous situation in a way that's safe for the personnel. So you have to look at that in both ways.
Well, let me clarify what my meaning. What I'm understanding what the chief is saying is that if we have one less personnel, then perhaps we don't go on a call because we don't have the personnel to maintain that call.
Right.
That's not putting anybody in danger here because they're not going on the call. That's putting the resident in danger, having to wait for a outside agency to come in.
But you have less qualified personnel
No, not
to
less
fill in
qualified
an
person.
emergency that occurs on that scene.
Well, you're talking about on a multiple. Okay.
Yes. And just by way of mathematics and what the chief had just indicated, 6,300 hours of overtime computes to 2.3 full-time positions. So a full-time position is approximately 2,706 hours, I think, isn't it, Steve?
Yes, I think that's Steve. What?
2704.
2704.
2706. I threw in an extra holiday, but
So the overtime you're paying wouldn't offset the cost of
well,
more personnel?
well, we're stealing that from reserves, and we're stealing that from equipment. So to say that we would save overtime by hiring these guys, once you hire them, you got to make a commitment to those individuals. So, it's
The
just a
money's going
plunge.
out the door anyway.
Well, exactly.
Right, so
But-
give these
but
guys a
that's-
break, give these guys relief, give these guys.
To show,
Yes.
just to show how excessive that is. That shows that we have been down two and a half regular positions that are being filled in by what, 6 guys,
Yeah.
right? I mean, I don't know how you communicate this to the community, but this is absurd what you're asking the chief to do.
Right.
Well, what this community is asking the chief to do, and I'd like to know.
That's
I've
the
never
idea.
seen.
Yeah, them.
Yeah.
I've
Yeah.
never.
Yes, these guys here.
I've never seen a man's hair grow silver more quickly than Chief Evans from the time that he took this position. But that's the way it is. And you have to look at those. You have to look at those circumstances, and it's very dangerous to degrade that level of service.
Now, let me ask this question. So we hire 2 more people, and that takes time. I've been a commissioner. I know how long the testing is. I know how long and how and what it takes to do that. Now we hire them. I hate to say this, but in this period of flux, are we like a pass-through district where we're going to hire someone, we're going to outfit them, and they're going to be gone in 7 months, 9 months? Is that, and then we have to hire again? Is this something that might become what happens? I don't know the insides of how you guys think. So it's.
We have had members that accepted a full-time position, came here, started, worked, and then left for what they viewed as a better opportunity for any one of a number of different reasons.
Right.
And we have had full-time people that came here and stayed. There's a lot good about this place, and mostly it's all of them.
Right.
So there's a lot good about this place, and it's in this district, in this community, that kept me here. There's no place I'd rather work now. I'll tell you that. I'll look you in the eye and tell you that. This is the only place I'll ever work.
Right.
I love this community. I love this department. And there are people like that, and there are people that will use it as a pass-through, and there are people that will be looking at the stability of our organization because of where we're at right now, that will also, if another opportunity comes along, potentially leave, I think. That's not an unfair statement to make.
Well, it's human nature. So when we hire someone, we pay for the gear, right? So that gear stays here?
Mhm.
Okay, so it can be cleaned and reused if it fits the next person-ish? Right, I mean, it's one of those catch as catch can. We just can't hire a guy that's 5'5" because we got rid of a guy that was 5'5".
I think we can have we could pass an ordinance, any new guy we hire has to reimburse the district for expenses that they leave within 2 years or, pick a time frame.
Would you apply for a job like that?
This spot right here?
Yeah.
I mean, if you, currently the situation is, if you say, I'm gonna pay you $120,000, right now it comes working Winfield,
Right.
but maybe work 4 years and you're out of a job.
How much?
I'm just saying, if you gave a lot of money up front and said, but 4 years you're out of a job, would you take it? Or would you take normal what you make now versus a 30, 20-year career?
Right.
People want stability.
Well, I understand that, that's why I'm bringing the point up.
That's why we've lost a lot of members right now.
I think you
Two right
misunderstood
now.
what he was asking.
But I mean-
If you're a new recruit coming on,
Just to get the job.
and the rules were to get the job, you have to stay here for, and I'm gonna throw a number out there, 3 years. And if you don't, you have to reimburse the district for the expenses of hiring you, gear.
You already have that.
Okay. There you go.
We do, okay. I'm glad someone knows that.
I think we also need to make sure we get it on the record so people watching this don't understand. We're not adding positions, we are filling part-time positions with full-time members.
Right.
I don't want people who are watching this going, oh my God, they're hiring people now. We're not adding bodies. We are filling shift positions with full-timers that have been placed by part-timers. And I want to make sure that people, at least people understand. We all understand that, but the people listening, they may not get that. I want to make sure.
Our staffing level of 5, which has been that way for many years. We used to
Right.
actually be at 6, and we dropped a position.
Right.
Right.
So for many years now, we have been at 5, 2 on the ambulance, 3 on the engine. It's still those 5 positions.
Right.
It's just finding a more stable
workforce.
Okay, so now my question, I have another question. In the interim, as we just keep whipping these poor horses and sending them out every day, every night, and 24 hours, 24/7, do we cut back our services during this time? Do we give them a break? Do we say, hey, we're back to a normal schedule, and we may not be able to answer that call at 3 o'clock Wednesday afternoon? Do we do that? What do we do?
I don't think so.
We
I
have
know your hearts aren't going to say
We-
no.
We have an active list. I don't know what the status of the candidates are on it. Assuming that there's available candidates still on our list, the process would be relatively fast, even in the COVID environment that we're living in. Our most recent member who's over there, Mike Beckley, we got you processed in a couple weeks.
I believe so. Right. Okay. So you took the video test, you did all the testing, and they still do that, right?
Yeah, the
Okay.
list is established. The
Right,
list
all
is
right.
established. I gave him
Oh, that's
a
right.
call.
Right, okay,
and,
I remember now. Okay.
he-
So then the
he
call is
accepted.
processed, okay. All right, I remember now, okay.
And
So
then,
it's basically a matter of a psych test, a physical, and finding a dotted line.
and then we're ordering gear. Then there's some some orientation. Will be on days for a little bit just to get to know
Right, okay.
the place to get oriented, but it's a relatively fast process, assuming there's candidates
Left on the list,
Yeah.
right, okay.
Well, they should check the list, find out who's on there.
Yep. I'd say proceed with it.
Right, I'm in agreement with that too. Let's give these guys a break.
Do we have a motion?
Do we we,
I'll make
well,
the motion.
does Steve,
I'll second it.
do you need a motion for us to do that? You do? All right, motion made, seconded, all in favor? Any opposed? Go for it, Steve.
You should do a roll call vote on that.
Roll
based
call?
on-
No, because we're spending money.
Okay, Rob, call roll?
President Lee?
Yeah.
Yes.
Secretary Stas?
Yes.
Treasurer Palace?
Yes.
Trustee Simpson?
Yes.
Right, and the motion was to appoint an additional full-time member.
Two.
Two.
All right, go for it, Steve. Discuss, take action repairing engine 31.
As you'll recall from last year, our engine, which currently is the only engine we have, had severe frame rail corrosion issues. If you recall back to last year, we had elicited some repair options. We selected one. We signed a contract for it to go actually up to a factory in Wisconsin. And we were on a waiting list, and then COVID happened, and all of the waiting lists got delayed. So we just, in the last few days, got notification that they're coming to get it in late December, which will leave us with the tender being the only operational fire apparatus we have. And again, going back to a lot of the stuff that we've discussed, and Chief Demenza and I had told the board previously, and the members have told you, it's a fine vehicle. It's not for day-to-day operations, and it has a tendency, when put in that capacity, to have mechanical issues if we're running it like a still engine. So we have been, since we got the notification, because we didn't know we'd ever, even when we reached out, there was no answer to be got until they said, we're coming to get
Is
it.
there a
in late."
timeline on when on the repairs?
They don't have one, they won't give one. Based on other customers' experiences, we're thinking in the 4-month range.
Okay, about that. COVID threw everything in a loop.
So, so we've been actively, since we got the notification, I didn't want to work out a rental agreement 6 months ago for an engine we didn't need yet, but we are actively pursuing some sort of apparatus through rental, buying a very used apparatus for a certain amount of money, trying to get a loaner, all of our available options. We are actively pounding the pavement to try and figure out what to do about having a rig in place so that we'll probably, for the amount of money, we will probably use our tender as much as we can. But if it breaks down and it needs to go to the repair shop, something to get us around for a couple of days until it comes back from
We
repair.
had a resident that suggested we lease a vehicle. Have we looked into that? I mean, can we lease to buy? Would that be something that would be beneficial for us?
Yeah, there's.
And then when this engine comes back, it can be more of a backup engine as opposed to.
We will be.
Have a new one?
We had anticipated putting in the request with next year's budget to purchase a new fire vehicle. And then that engine would, having been recently somewhat refurbished, would be able to serve a good long rest of its life in a reserve capacity.
Right.
The trouble with, there's not a lot where you can go and I'll take the red one and you can lease a vehicle. It's just gonna take a year and a half
Really?
to
Okay.
have a vehicle built. So, and even most of the major manufacturers have very few, if any, demo units available for sale as a general rule. Usually around when they were running FDIC, you would have a few around, but there's like, if you were to look at the websites, and I would encourage everyone to do so, look at the websites. I think several of them have 1 or 2 demo units, fire engines that are demo units.
Okay.
And most of those that, if you were to look on the websites, you know, they don't have a 1,000-gallon tank, which we need, or they don't have a front suction, which is critical in our application, because it's not that common an option to have. So even if we were to get a demo unit on a lease, we would still have a lot of difficulty finding a unit that would work for us, and for that kind of money, we should get something for that long-term answer that meets our needs. It has the right size booster tank, that has the hose bed layout that will work with our Alliance loads, that has the front suction and all that kind of stuff. So it's not that easy a solution. We can get something for a kick-around vehicle, I'm hoping through a short-term rental or a loaner. Again, just to carry us a couple of days in spells until that thing comes back. But that's stuff that we're actively, Lieutenant Daly, Brian Burke, me, we've all been working that angle really hard since we got the notification. And I'll have a definitive recommendation for the board for the next meeting, which will be before that thing goes out.
So it sounds like we need to move up our next year's around the corner, so we're gonna be buying one, okay.
Yeah.
Have you talked to surrounding districts, maybe compensating them for utilizing their spare equipment?
Had the conversations. I don't have a concrete answer yet because several of our partner agencies and neighboring agencies will only have one reserve too, and they have bigger fleets than we do, so the reserve actually gets more use than ours does. One of our neighbors just bought another new fire engine. They'll be taking delivery of it hopefully late next month. So we're hoping, while they have two reserves, because they have the reserve and they're going to be moving down in status the current engine they're using, hopefully we can get onto that. That's one of the options we're actively exploring. Another one is through one of the vendors has a loaner that we were talking about a short-term rental on as well. So I mean, there are a few very serious options we're investigating. We're just seeing which one's going to shake out to be the most effective solution for us. And because this just happened, we don't have the answers yet. We've asked all the questions and we're starting to collect feedback. We just don't have all of the answers to give you a salient suggestion or recommendation yet.
Thank you.
Was there any action you needed, Steve, or was that just more of an information for us?
Well, I was hoping to have some answers, again, because I had talked to a lot of our leads on this and asked for expedited responses, and I was hoping to have an answer for you, and it just hasn't materialized yet.
Okay. But we could have, I think with Open Meetings Act, if he was to contact each of us, or contact us and we replied separately, we could approve something on an emergency? No?
No.
We can't? Okay.
No, you should have a special, you could call a special meeting. The way to do it would be to call a special meeting.
Call a special meeting,
Special
okay.
meeting. Thank you, Steve. Motion to pay the bills.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Pay the bills.
Any questions on the bills? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, any opposed? Executive session, we are having an executive session tonight. Bernie, what is that based on?
Yes, it will be based upon potential litigation and also the appointment of personnel.
Okay. Do I have, and so we're not coming back out to take
We
it?
would not be coming back.
Do I have a motion to adjourn into executive session?
Motion.
Do I have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Good night, everyone.
Good night. Thank you. See you in January. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas.